In a massive development, the Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has expressed a clear preference for India to complete the Teesta River Basin Development Project due to the existing water sharing issues with India. She has returned from her official 4-day visit to China a bit early, and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina shared her views during a media interaction at her official residence. She said that India will give Bangladesh whatever it needs after completion of the Teesta project. Both China and India have proposed to implement the Teesta Basin Development Project and will conduct separate feasibility studies. She also said that Bangladesh government will go for the proposal which will be best suited for the country after seeing the feasibility studies. She also emphasized Bangladesh's preference for India, as India is central to resolving the water sharing dispute between the two countries. Let's start this conversation. On the face of it, this is the development that has taken place, but what has gone on in the last 5 days during the 4-day visit of Sheikh Hasina to China to meet Xi Jinping, and why did she have to cut short her visit? Because of the apparent disgust, unhappiness over the way she was treated. There were also at this point in time rumors floating that Sheikh Hasina was seeking for a $5 billion aid from China to Bangladesh, but the aid that was provided was just about $1 billion. Let's start this conversation with Joyita Basu, and let's try to understand, Joyita, about the importance of the Teesta River Basin and why it is to the benefit of not just India but for the Bangladeshis as well, that the project is completed by India and not handed over to China.
No, first of all, Teesta is a river in North Bengal, northern part of Bengal. It flows into Bangladesh. So basically, Bangladesh is a lower riparian state. And as being the upper riparian state, we have the upper hand in this particular case. So you see, now when it comes to Teesta, it's a matter of water sharing. This problem has been going on for a very long time, because what happens is that the state of West Bengal is not so willing to share the water with Bangladesh, and as a result of which Mamata Banerjee in particular has been throwing a spanner in the works for a very, very long time. Sheikh Hasina has been trying to manage Mamata Banerjee, but she has been refusing throughout, and that is also one of the reasons why this India-Teesta talks are held up, because it's also very politically fraught and volatile issue it can be, especially in a state like Bengal, because a lot of North Bengal's water depends on that river. Now you cannot possibly have China manage that river, primarily because it is flowing through a large part of India. You cannot allow China to manage the flow in any part of that. I mean, whatever work has to be done, it's basically, Teesta is considered an Indian river. So what is China's role in it? The very fact that China was considered for this is a surprise. Okay. All right. Let's also try to delve deeper into it. I have with me Professor S.D. Muni. He is the former ambassador and professor emeritus at the School of International at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Thank you so much for joining us. And if we have to take a look at the water wars that are played and this art form that has been mastered by China, whether it is about the Mekong River or we talk about the number of rivers that flow out of the Himalayas from Tibet, and being in the upper riparian region, it becomes easier for China to control the water sharing to the lower riparian states, which is India and Bangladesh. Like I said, Mekong has been a disaster that has hit Laos and Vietnam and Thailand. And if we want to safeguard the Brahmaputra, what can be the joint action that can be taken by Bangladesh and India?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
What is your precise question? You want me to discuss on Teesta or on Mekong?
No, I'm giving you an example of Mekong, how it has been completely destroyed. But in context to that, when we talk about Teesta and we talk about the Brahmaputra, how can we safeguard our interests?
No. So far as Teesta is concerned, China is not directly a stakeholder,
Yeah.
to put it this way. It is India which is a stakeholder. And as you mentioned, we have already prepared a draft on Teesta River between India and Bangladesh. Could not sign during Manmohan Singh's government because of resistance from West Bengal. And even now, the resistance from West Bengal continues because those are the constituencies within West Bengal which Mamata Banerjee does not want to leave and want to nurse them, and therefore she is not willing to have any compromise on the water which is flowing into West Bengal. So this is a problem in India of the federal structure, and I must tell you that the Bangladeshis are finding it very difficult to adjust with that. They have repeatedly been saying that why Teesta is not being signed. So this is what we have to keep it in mind, and we have to find a solution somehow. I am personally of the view that if the two governments at the central level had come to an agreement or a consensus on Teesta River, then the agreement should be signed. And there are political considerations. Even I think the BJP is wanting a strong constituency in West Bengal, and therefore they cannot go against something which people there feel is against them. But anyway, so far as development of Teesta is concerned, India has larger stakes, and I think Hasina has done well to say that we will have India involved in this project if at all. Now, so far as China is concerned, don't forget that China is very much pushing itself into whole of South Asia, not only Bangladesh, whole of South Asia for various reasons. If you have time, we can discuss it there. But in this case, the Bangladesh also doesn't want to undergo heavy loans from the Chinese. And this is a problem which has arisen in South Asia after what happened in Sri Lanka. Nobody wants to be burdened in terms of debt so far as China is concerned, and the Chinese behavior has been putting pressure on these countries accepting their terms of these projects. So I guess Hasina has not endorsed the kind of conditions which the Chinese were putting, and she has settled for a lesser loan, which is good enough in terms of Bangladesh's overall and long-term economic obligations.
Okay, all right. Let's also get in Rubinder Sachdev. Now, when we talk about the China angle, it is Sheikh Hasina who had been at one point of time contemplating whether to hand over the Teesta project for conservation, quote unquote conservation purposes to China. And when she has once again come out and spoken that she has belief in India and she would rather favor India to handle the matters, and it is a bilateral issue between both the countries. Why has it, as Professor Muni said, that there are political reasons for which this issue has not been resolved. The water sharing agreements between Bengal and Bangladesh do not suit the locals in West Bengal, and therefore there are issues over there. Can there be a sustainable solution that can be found of it?
Great question. I think a great question which will keep dangling, because I think as Professor S. D. Moni said, the issue with us in India is that river sharing waters is a matter of concurrent list. That is, both the center and the states have to agree, right? So if folks in West Bengal continue to oppose it, I think we are in a pickle, slight pickle, or maybe a serious pickle. That one. Now, secondly, regarding Sheikh Hasina and the China, her trip, apparently when she was in China, she little cut short her trip, as you mentioned. And part of the reason was that, of course, she was wanting certain terms, and apparently the Chinese were wanting to offer them some other terms. Then it is also said that the meeting that she had with President Xi Jinping was, I think, cut down or was shorter than what was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Then the Chinese foreign minister apparently did not connect or have a protocol visit or call with her. Then in China media, the visit was not played up. So there seems to be a bunch of reasons. Now, to my mind, the question is that why was China snubbing Sheikh Hasina? You have someone there, you're snubbing Sheikh Hasina for some reason. So it could be that, exactly, I think you mentioned, Professor Muni mentioned also, that China wants to steamroller its projects in Bangladesh on its own terms. The 5 billion, whatever was being discussed, keep aside the Teesta one for the time being, let's say, right? The other projects which were being discussed, and the Chinese were offering on certain, terms and conditions, which Sheikh Hasina was not agreeing to. So in a way, to show their displeasure or to arm twist Bangladesh, that could have been the reason why China, downplayed her visit. Otherwise, why would someone do? I mean, that would be a question to my mind. So that being said, so it seemed that China was a little bit arm twisting Sheikh Hasina because they wanted her to take on the terms on which they are offering the loans and these infrastructure projects. She did not want. The visit did not go well, apparently, cut short a little bit. That one. Second, now regarding the Teesta waters, quickly. Yeah, I mean, it makes absolute and all common sense that India should be involved in this project, which is of, management, river management of the basin area of the Teesta River. It's a contiguous thing with us. Sure, the Chinese could come in, okay, they could be good engineers and all, they could, put up a large construction project of irrigation, canals, water management, etc. But it makes much, much more common sense, and I think even maybe a lower cost of the entire project if it is done in tandem with India.
Okay. Sumit, what are your views? Now, the snub that Sheikh Hasina was not expecting has apparently gotten. This is what the rumor mills at this point of time are putting it out on media platforms, and it's a tightrope that Sheikh Hasina also has to walk in a bid to get gains, not just from India, but from China as well. She has been very vocal and open about providing Bangladeshi territory for BRI projects. And like we just mentioned about the Teesta project, it was a $1 billion project that China was eyeing, but at this point of time, the favor has been given to India, as per the statement that has been made by Sheikh Hasina. How do you view the overall picture? And in specificity, is the Teesta issue as difficult to handle as it is being made out to be, because it has been going on for years together now?
Megha ji, thank you for having me on your show. It's a brilliant question. Let me answer your question in two parts. First part, what happened in China and why there was a royal snub. Look, there was an offer from China on the table, $15 billion of investments into various projects of Bangladesh, and $5 billion equivalent to yuan as a loan, which Bangladesh can use to import things from China. That was the deal. This deal was all done and good when Sheikh Hasina went from here. She talked about Teesta. We brought up Teesta. She said, okay, I'll look into it and all that. If you can start, we'll look into, diplomatically keeping everybody happy. The fact of the matter remains, after a year, she went to Bangladesh. She went with a big delegation. She had 5 or 7 ministers with her. And when she landed in China, first of all, the guard of honor and all was not proper as per the protocol. Secondly, none of the ministers got their counterparts to meet them. Thirdly, the delegation which was traveling with them was told after the end of the second day, go back to Bangladesh. You are not supposed to be in the trade delegation. And what happened, if you look at the Bangladeshi media, they have clearly come up with one thing. It was cut short due to the illness of daughter and the treatment of the Beijing. They were clear about that. So the 4-day visit got cut short by 2.5 days, or rather after second day it was over. The meeting with Xi Jinping was very small. What did Chinese offer? Chinese said, forget $20 billion. We are not giving you anything. We are giving you 1 billion yuan. 1 billion yuan is equal to $127 million. कहाँ $20 billion की बात हो रही थी, यार ending up with $127 million. This was basically a snub, which Sheikh Hasina did not like. She said, you cannot call me here and then restart negotiating the terms, because China is like, look, you're a smaller country. This is how we handle smaller countries. We are not going to treat you as par. You are not our parasite. You listen to us. If you want our money, it has to be our conditions. And there are some sources, Meghaji, which are indicating that Bangladesh, China wanted and very special access to Myanmar for its nefarious designs through Bangladesh, which Sheikh Hasina thought as a national security threat for even Bangladesh. So she said, look, I'm not going to give you this access. And this is possibly where the things started going west. And let me come to the Teesta part. Look, what does China want? China wants, Teesta starts from Sikkim, goes through West Bengal, enters Bangladesh. China exactly wanted to build a dam when it enters Bangladesh. Now, when you build a dam when it enters Bangladesh, remember the Siliguri corridor. On this side, you have China almost coming near to Doklam. Here, they wanted to build a dam on this side. So you wanted to kind of encircle Siliguri corridor from both the sides. This dam was basically to use as a strategic leverage against India when push comes to shove. India knew about it, and India was doing what is in our best interest to make sure China is out of the game. And we had to do what we had to do. I can't talk much, but what we had to do, we did that. Now, this was basically a checkmate to India, which they wanted to give. That the allurement was $20 billion, which did not happen, and what special conditions China demanded from Sheikh Hasina. Then Sheikh Hasina comes to back to Bangladesh, and there's a big student protest going on in Bangladesh, which will be very soon covered by the international media. 1 or 2 students are dead. Now, out of compulsion, not option, she said, "Oh, I'm closing up to India. Can India come and do it?" Now, if you come to the Teesta Water Agreement, look, Bangladesh was 50-50. We are proposing 55-45. 5% का difference. There's not a lot of difference. Somehow they are adamant, somehow we are adamant. We seem not to agree to it. But just China's only intention was that to have that dominance over the chicken neck here from Doklam, here through this dam, where they could use it to a strategic leverage. It is a very, very good move which India has done. It helps our national security. And it is something which we have managed. I can't talk much. It's something which we have managed. And whatever we did in the supreme national interest. This 20 billion was not going to come to them. The idea was to dangle this carrot and get this dam. Now, this dam we are going to make. It's a good achievement for us. And Sheikh Hasina is not happy with the snub she got. And let's not forget what I can talk very limitedly. What possibly Chinese demanded is access to Myanmar through Bangladesh.
To do. All right, fair enough. Jyota, coming back to you now, on the larger scheme of things, yes, Teesta is an issue that has been, a prickly point for both the nations to come to agreements in the bilateral ties that have, hit a spanner because of the Teesta dispute. But in a larger scheme of things, is Bangladesh more trustful of India than it is of Beijing as of today?
Well, I don't think so, really. It's ultimately all about interest. Because you see, why did Sheikh Hasina allow the Chinese to, why did they talk about building the dam, this project on the Teesta so close to India's border, and as Sumit rightly pointed out, so near the Siliguri corridor come up at all? Doesn't Sheikh Hasina know that India's, how sensitive India is about that particular region? Why was this talk going on? Now, the fact is, you see, I have a feeling, it is actually being said also, that perhaps Sheikh Hasina was also trying to teach India a little bit of lesson, and that is the reason why, because this Teesta water was not, this water sharing problem was not being sorted out, because of primarily obstacles which I have talked about in the earlier segment also. Mamata Banerjee is a huge obstacle when it comes to that, because it's a very politically fraught matter in Bengal. So, the thing is that perhaps she was trying to teach India a lesson. It's a different matter that she is also not that adept at playing geopolitical games, because she also did not understand what the Chinese are capable of, and I think she she learned her lesson. Let's not forget, come what may, for Sheikh Hasina also, it is about continuing to be Prime Minister. She has been. For us also, it is about ensuring that she continues as Prime Minister, because she is the better of the two bad choices. All right. So, that is how. So, it is ultimately all about our own interest. It is all about her interest.
Okay, fair enough. Coming back to you, Professor Muni, now, what do you make of the statement that has been made by Sheikh Hasina, where she says that Bangladesh favors India over China? This after the 2-day visit that she made in India and met Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and after the 4-day visit that she had announced to travel to Beijing but had to cut it short after 3 days.
Recall that Sheikh Hasina came during Prime Minister Modi's swearing in. And then soon after that, she came again before going to China. So she had this consideration of balancing the two. There was obviously resentment or reservations in India about the project she was going to discuss and sign with the Chinese. And I'm sure that the Indian side gave her this message that this would not be acceptable to India. This was very clear. Therefore, all said and done, in terms of security, in terms of geopolitical location, Hasina cannot, and even in terms of political support, don't forget that India was the only biggest support for Hasina in the recent elections, despite The Americans trying to do something, others are trying to do something. So Hasina also realizes that support of India is absolutely essential for Bangladesh.
No,
She
but
might have,
even China was very vehement and vocal in its support to Sheikh Hasina, to Bangladesh during the election, and the entire sanctions that were being imposed by United States of America on Sheikh Hasina's officials and bureaucrats.
I know, but Indian support was critical and Indian support has been consistent. I don't want to go into the history of China-Bangladesh relations. China has always adjusted with the powers that be, wherever it is. It is not a question, whereas ideological support from India is a very consistent factor so far as Hasina is concerned. We have consistently maintained support for Awami League since Hasina's father's time. And when they were all thrown out, India still stood by Awami League did not side with the military regimes. The Chinese did it. The Chinese even recognized Bangladesh much later, after the emergence of Bangladesh. Let's not go into the history, but I think every Bangladeshi realizes it, and Hasina realizes it more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Not the BNP, which really does it. Number one, this is one. Secondly, you must understand that the Chinese have a strange habit of twisting arms. Sri Lanka wanted to revisit the port agreement with them, both in Colombo and in Hambantota. And the Sirisena government, before coming to power, said that we would revise the terms of agreement with China. After coming to power, both Sirisena and Ranil Wickremesinghe wanted that to be revision, and the Chinese put their pressure on. They said, if you are going to revise these agreements, you may have to pay a lot of penalty, and that is something economically Sri Lanka could not afford.
Okay.
Nepal, as I told you, the Chinese, the BRI agreement was in cold storage for last 3, 4, 5 years. The Chinese have now put a pressure that either you start or something else. That's how Prachanda had to start it. So the Chinese pressure tactics are also getting exposed gradually to all the South Asian countries. And I think the sooner Bangladesh has realized, the better it is. And that's why Hasina has taken this position. I mean, a little bit of pinpricks to India by proposing it to China would not have taken Bangladesh very far off on that project being given to China, and India would have never accepted that.
Okay. Rupinder, then the developments that are taking place in Nepal, there has been a political upheaval, there is a change of guard. We see that KP Oli has also come back to power, and he has this very pro-China stance. And as Professor Muni said that, there are BRI projects that are now going to roll out with the red carpet being brought forth for Xi Jinping and his projects. We have taken a look at something similar that the Sri Lankans suffered at the hands of the Chinese debt and the salami slicing that was witnessed in Sri Lanka. Bangladesh has also acceded to China's demands in setting up the BRI projects over there. A difficult issue to handle for India, because it is the countries in the subcontinent, these are our neighbors, direct neighbors that we have to handle. And if China has an upper hand and is being able to control the ports and the lands and the rail and the hydroelectric power projects and so on and so forth, what position does India have in safeguarding its borders and keeping a strong position within the subcontinent?
Sure. I mean, definitely, challenges out there and challenging times out there. And out of the list of the countries, I think even Maldives is another one, right, where this is happening. Now, the point is, yes, what we can, of course, India will continue to engage and try and work out what are the best deals or backroom deals we can figure out. At the same time, I think partly it also depends upon, lessons learned by these countries. Hopefully, these countries will start learning lessons of Sri Lanka and the Chinese practices. That's one. But even then, remember that it is in the interest of these countries, from their national interest point of view, to play off India versus China, right? Once they can make some matrix, and then for them it's also a matter of within some parameters, playing off India versus China, even for Bangladesh, right? I mean, fair enough, they didn't get what they were wanting from China. They're playing India, this message can also be seen as that. that Sheikh Hasina is telling India, yeah, you can come into the Teesta project, but you have to give us better terms than the Chinese are giving us. So it's a method of negotiating with
Yeah.
India also.
Okay.
Right. So we will see these, give and take negotiations happening, but definitely, waters to be navigated.
Okay. Sumit, a quick response from you before I wrap this up. How do you see the overall picture? Do you think India is still at this point of time, after what happened to Sheikh Hasina when she visited Beijing and the less than welcoming response that she has gotten, again turns tables for India in India's favor?
I think whatever happened in Beijing and whatever happened is a positive outcome for India. And let's not assume that our machinery is staying idle and not doing anything. We are competent of protecting our national interest. If China can play the games, we can also do what we have to do in our national interest. Look, there's a concept of string of pearls. There's also a concept of the necklace of diamonds. There's a which India is also doing. The challenge is these smaller countries which are in our neighborhood, they first get debt trapped by China. They know that. Then they come to India for the rescue. They know India has to rescue them. So they're also using this thing. Second challenge, what I see there is that, having said done, our vehement support for Sheikh Hasina, suppose if tomorrow she's not into picture due to whatever reasons, that creates a vacuum. Whatever vacuum that gets created, is that vacuum going to be pro-India or not India? We have to also, tweak our things a bit. And the last thing is there. I can tell you, ma'am, it was a royal snub. This change of heart happened after you got a snub in China. It was not before going to China.
Yeah.
If you had a clear change of heart and all, you should have not gone to China, because you went to China, you ended up in place of $20 billion, you ended with $127 million. So they basically wanted you to get out. So when you came back, you say, oh, India, mera bhai hai, mera dost hai, let me talk to them. We have to see through the lines. But whoever did whatever they had to do has done a fantastic job. I want to compliment them.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.